Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 48 of the Run in the Paint podcast. I'm Miles. I'm here with Nick and Joey. Guys, how are you doing today?
Feeling great, feeling great. Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day, fellas. Joey, you had a little bonfire action. You have a good night.
Oh, yes.
Sounds great.
That's awesome.
Memorial Day basketball. There was Memorial Day baseball on. The Guardians had 9 wins in a row up to today, but
yeah. Shout out to
Colorado.
Nancy and Joe. They're going to go to the game in Colorado tomorrow to see the Guardians play Colorado
Coors
Rockies
Field.
at Coors Field before they go
Fun.
visit Jackie.
That should be a lot of fun. Well, Memorial Day, it was a pretty good day. Besides some very unfortunate news. Rest in peace to Bill Walton, Hall of Famer. Just a tough loss that we got today. A heck of a person above all, but great basketball player, great broadcaster, and just a guy that loved to have a lot of fun.
Man was one of the best. Just like I loved watching him on the college hoops do the broadcast. Like he just brought so much life and energy to it. He didn't even care like what he was saying. He sometimes didn't even know what he was saying half the time. He just kept rolling with it because it was fun.
Yeah, he was definitely one of my favorites to watch. And sad morning when I woke up to Miles' text in our group chat and I saw that Bill Walton that passed away. It was very, very sad. But yeah, he was fun to watch up until the time he stopped doing it. Like he gave everything he had all the time, and I didn't get to like experience him as a player, but from everything I've heard and everything that 2K gives him, both very credible stories.
Man was a champion and an MVP right after the whole Bill Russell and stuff. So he played against the big boys.
99% sure this is a true fact. I'm pretty sure he's the only player to win 2 NBA Finals and 2 NCAA championships.
I would believe that.
Yeah, I mean, so many different accolades on the court, and then of course, just one of the greatest broadcasters that I've ever witnessed. But my favorite moment of him broadcasting might be there's this clip of like it's someone's birthday, and he
So
just
many clips.
eats this cupcake while the candle's still lit. It is hilarious.
I remember seeing that one.
He's got so many good clips.
So many good clips, so many good sayings.
Yeah.
His accolades on the court: a two-time champion in 1977 for the Portland Trailblazers, was the Finals MVP. Then went on to win the MVP the next season in 1978. Only a two-time All-Star. Injuries did have a part of that. Injury definitely salvaged some of his career, but All NBA first team in 78, All NBA second team 77, All Defensive first team in both of those years. And the year he won the championship in 86 with the Celtics, he was the sixth man of the year. So was able to go ahead and take a back seat. Led the NBA in rebounding one year, blocks the same year, has been on the NBA's 50th and 75th anniversary teams. Just a heck of a life lived by Bill Walton, and just a special guy.
I forget who said it, but I saw it earlier. Someone said it was someone on ESPN or some analyst said as good of a basketball player as he was, and he was a Hall of Famer, he was an even better person.
Absolutely, no question about it. Well, one of his teams that he played for, the Boston Celtics, did advance back to the NBA Finals. We want to get to the games here tonight. Going to Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals with the Celtics pulling out another close victory, another heartbreaker for the Indiana Pacers, losing this one 105-104. And the Celtics
Get out the brooms.
Get out the brooms. The Celtics sweep their way to the NBA Finals.
I called it. Y'all gave the Pacers some hope. I really thought they had at least one of those games in them, but once Tyrese went out, like, it was hard to come back from that. They just really had no shot. I'm sorry. They didn't have a shot with Tyrese, but
I mean, even with him being out, I mean, we clearly saw that the Pacers had the ability to win these games. Like, I wouldn't say that they didn't have a chance. they were right here at the end to not to win the series, obviously, but to win a
Okay.
game or two.
Yeah.
No question, no question, they still had a chance to do it. Definitely needs to give big shout out to Andrew Nembhard for playing incredible basketball these last two games.
100%.
24 points, 10 assists in this one, 32 points in game three. Just man, it's got to be tough if you're a Pacers fan to be like, okay, coming into this series that you're playing with house money. Everyone's gonna pick the Boston Celtics, and like, okay, if you're a Pacers fan, you could be happy with any of the results as long as you fight. But after these games, basically blowing three of them, it's got to be tough, man.
Yeah, I mean, Nemhard was great, but he's not in the role that he was not. He was out of his role. I mean, he was like 1A, 1B for them.
Yeah.
These last couple games. Him and Pascal, I guess, would be your first two options left after Tyrese went down. But they're definitely gonna be back. I think they have a strong roster coming back. TJ and Nemhard are both great pieces that you found, and but they're definitely also thin. I think you need to add another offensive weapon because
remember, Benedict Mathurin was out as well. He was he's a big scoring boost they had during the regular season.
I think Indiana has a very intriguing future considering all the talent that they have. Like this season, they set NBA records in the regular season and playoffs for most players averaging double digits in points. Like in the playoffs, they had 7 players average 10 points or more. And then in the regular season, they had 10 players average 9 or more points, which
were
is
any of
just
them Jarris Walker?
insane. None of them were Jarris Walker.
Dang.
He could be another guy.
And that's just what I find interesting about this Pacers team, because when you look at this future, like, okay, you're gonna have to look at re-signing Siakam in free agency, of course, big trade for them. And he was incredible in these playoffs.
That's got to be priority number one right there.
Well, I think when they made the trade, they had sort of a mutual understanding, or else the trade wouldn't have happened.
But it's still got to get done first.
Yeah, definitely still has to get done. You never know what could happen. You never know what could happen with that. But when you look at the rest of this Pacers team, like with all the young guys that they have, like a Benedict Mathurin, Jarris Walker, who didn't really even play, that have potential, and then the guys that did play, with of course your All NBA point guard Tyrese Halliburton, Nesmith, Ben Shepherd, Andrew Nembhard, of course. Jalen Smith was good during the season. Like all these different pieces in there, and
Isaiah Jackson,
Isaiah Jackson, and I feel like the Pacers are gonna have to make some moves, because if you bring back the same team, like, do you really want another year of Jarris Walker not playing? Some of these young players that could thrive in other situations just not getting burned because of all the talent that's on this team.
I mean, even we've seen flashes like from Ben Shepherd and stuff. He not getting more than 20 minutes a night with how deep this roster is. Same thing goes for Isaiah Jackson.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys that may have some value in the trade market, if you combine them with the right other stuff, the right package.
Yeah, and luckily a lot of their guys are still under contract besides Pascal Siakam and Obi Toppin. Those are really the only two guys that they have to re-sign. And Doug McDermott's up for a deal, but we'll see how they want to bring him back.
They'll probably get him off the books because he was one of their highest. He was getting paid higher than Tyrese and like half the other guys.
He was their third highest paid player.
Yeah, like he's way too much money for them
on a conference finals team. Before we get to the Boston Celtics, of course we do have to talk about the Celtics going back to the NBA Finals. With the Indiana Pacers, do you guys think that this run to the conference finals was a sort of similar run that the Atlanta Hawks made back in 2021? Is this a flukish run, or is this team a legit contender that we could see doing the same thing next year?
It depends, because what the Hawks did is they tried to bring in a star to like coexist and play really well with Trae Young, and it was DeJounte Murray, and clearly we saw how that turned out. if the Pacers, like we said, they need to add pieces, but do they need necessarily another like superstar or like another superstar or star in the making? They just need another like guy to average like 15 to 20, like nothing crazy. But if they do that, then this doesn't need to be a fluke. They didn't change up the whole like chemistry of the team.
I wouldn't compare the two runs.
I agree. Yeah.
I think Indiana's got some more legitness to them. I guess that's legitness.
Yeah, I would no, I would definitely agree with that. I find the two runs, somewhat similarly comparable because you're led by, all-star point guard,
Who
Trae
got
Young
hurt?
and Tyrese Halliburton.
Trae Young got hurt.
Yeah, they did both get hurt. They've made their run to the conference finals with a team that had veterans making the most amount of money, like Trae Young, Kevin Huerter. They were still on their rookie deals when they made the conference finals. And then of course, as you said, Joey, like even before getting DeJounte Murray, the next season they were a playing team. The next year, that's when they trade for DeJounte Murray. They're a playing team. This year they're a playing team as well, and they get knocked out in the first game to the Chicago Bulls. So, definitely I think it will be a different thing with the Indiana Pacers. I think that they do have some special things in them, and I don't even know if they really need to change much with this roster, and more so just have Tyrese Halliburton progress more, because we forget how young he is still and playing this good. Like, was this only his fourth year in the NBA?
Yeah, but he's not a naturally dominant 40 a night scorer. Like I think the best way to get the most out of Tyrese is to go get a guy in free agency. Like there's a good free agent class out right now. Bring Paul George back to Indy, baby. Could you imagine?
That would be wild.
Those three would be a big three.
Yeah.
Sign and trade with the Clippers. Just blow everything up in LA. You got a brand new arena. Get some new faces.
Yeah, this is the time to blow
disabled.
it up. I know we're talking about the East Coast and the Eastern Conference, but blow up LA.
Kawhi's disabled. LeBron's leaving the Lakers.
Yeah, just blow up LA.
Oh man. Well, talking about the Boston Celtics side of things, of course, we've talked about it. It's been talked about everywhere about how all the teams that they've played have been injured severely. Like, you could make a pretty darn good starting five of the injured players that they've run through. Like, you could put Tyrese Halliburton, Donovan Mitchell, Jimmy Butler, Jaime Jaquez, Jared Allen. Like, but I mean, even then, they still got the job done, and they are headed to the NBA Finals, their 23rd NBA Finals in franchise history.
I think the biggest thing that people are going to gloss over is the fact that Boston swept the conference finals without their third best player, without Porzingis.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, everyone's going to talk about how easy run they had it, which they did, but it's not like they were like injury free. Like you said, they lost their third best player. Like, it's a huge miss for these rounds.
Yeah, Porzingis huge for them in the regular season, and we'll see if he is back in time for game one of the finals. I mean, the Celtics sweeping the Pacers now have like 8-9 days of rest.
They got over a week.
Yeah, so they definitely could have Porzingis back in time for game one of the finals. But I think that maybe the most impressive thing about this series in particular was their clutch play. Talking about it all season, the Celtics were rolling over teams, but there were a couple of hiccups along the way where they would lose leads in the clutch, resort back to one-on-one ISO ball, which had haunted them really in every single year of this iteration of the team when it came out of the playoffs. And you get 3 clutch comeback victories in the conference finals where you don't really get a lot of ISO ball. There was a little bit of that, a little bit in this game, but when it came down to it, for the most part, they were moving the ball, getting the best shot possible, and forcing the Pacers into tough turnovers, great defense. Like, this team looked, a lot better in the clutch than they had the last few seasons, and I think that is, if you can't take anything else from this series, that's one thing that I think you have to take away.
Like, as much as there's when you talk about the team with the best record in the NBA, it's hard to look and like nitpick, but that was definitely something that it was like a glaring concern. You didn't even have to really nitpick, and they seems like, especially this series, they fixed it, and they easily could have taken it lighter, and they did pretty much, I think, take it light on Indy for a little bit, but in the clutch they stepped up, which is very scary because we haven't seen that all year.
Yeah, and the guy who I would argue is most responsible for that, or was in this series, it was the guy who raised the Larry Bird Eastern Conference Finals MVP trophy at the end of the series, and that was Jaylen Brown. He was magnificent. Not only just like we talked about last time, and his relentless ability to score the basketball and get to the rim, but like he's setting up Derek White in the corner for the game-winning three. He's getting the block on the other end to seal the game when Andrew Nembhard gets a step on him towards the rim. Like, he did it all. And if Boston is going to continue to be good in the clutch, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch because the team on the other side that's coming to the finals is also very good in the clutch. Just, I know we'll talk about Dallas, but they had the best clutch record in the NBA this season at 23-9 according to Tim McMahon. I'm reading his story right now.
Yeah.
And he's got. They also had the best clutch offense. So they're 6-2 in the playoffs in clutch situations. The Mavericks are. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Boston can do it against the best next series. Hopefully, I don't want to speculate about the finals.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But
yeah, that series isn't technically over yet. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that very, very soon. But talking about the clutch play, I just went and looked at games 1, 3, and 4, all the close games in this series. The Celtics outscored the Pacers in the fourth quarter and overtime by 21 points in those three clutch games. That's exactly what you want to see from a team like the Boston Celtics, the best team in the NBA, and moving on to the NBA Finals. And for a team that is one of the most storied franchises in the history of the NBA, interesting to note that they only have one Finals victory since 1986. Of their 17 rings, only one of them has been since the late 80s. That coming in, of course, 2008. Right? Yeah, 2008.
I was gonna say, since Larry Bird, the only trifecta to do that was that big three down in 08 with Pierce, KG, and Ray Allen. But this is, I'm sorry, but there's got to be tremendous amount of pressure on this team. And they're going to the finals, but there's got to be a tremendous amount of pressure. How many finals appearances is this now? 2 or 3 for Tatum?
This will be 2. This will be 2 for Tatum.
2 for Tatum. How many Eastern Conference Finals? So like he's made the Eastern Conference Finals a lot more. I know that, but they need to get it done because this is their best chance to do it. Like,
yeah, this was their 6th conference final and just their 2nd finals appearance since 2017. Specifically, looking at Jaylen Brown.
Those fans are ruthless and they want winners. They get winners, and if you're not delivering, it's not going to be a fun time. Yeah, y'all have played great so far, but as soon as you do not turn it up in the finals, you better have like thick skin and just move on from it.
Like I said, they did this without KP, 12-2 going into the finals without Porzingis. 18th team to enter the finals with only 2 losses since 1984, and the other teams are 12-5. So,
yeah,
definitely impressive stuff by the Boston Celtics. Even if that the teams that they played on their road to the finals were injured and not the best. I mean, this team was still the best team in the NBA, and even if all 3 of those teams were healthy, I think it's still safe to say that the Celtics were going to go to the finals anyway. So
yeah,
well, I would have liked to see a healthy Knicks team go against Boston. I think that would have been tough.
I would have too.
That would have been better than just a sweep.
Yeah, even though we were talking in the pre-pod lobby, like all these games have still been super close. Like, there's not really much more we could ask for besides, man, hope the other team wins.
Besides for Adam Silver to move up the date. The finals.
Yeah,
I'm still
God,
move up the finals date.
yeah. Right when we're about to get into the next one, like this was 4 games. The next series we're about to talk about is 3-0.
I was
Like
gonna say.
these, only one game has kind of been a blowout. These
Yeah.
games have been fantastic. I
Let's
just
get
want
in.
more of them.
I know.
I
Let's
was
get
gonna say
into it.
Oh, we could preview the finals, but we might spend the next 6 episodes doing that
That
if the
well,
finals don't start for anything.
we'll have plenty of time to preview the NBA final if this series does end quickly. But let's go to the Western Conference Finals, Game 3, where the Mavericks, similar to the Celtics, once again do it in the clutch. Now a 3-0 series lead, and they are 1 win away from the NBA Finals, which is just crazy to think. I know you guys picked Dallas, but did you guys even see this coming, a 3-0 lead?
We've talked about the Pick'em chat before and how we do the Pick'em games. I even though I have Dallas in 7, every single game I have picked the Wolves to win because I'm like, well, the Wolves are going to come out hot. They're going to win game 1. Oh, Dallas won. Well, the Wolves aren't going to lose both at home. Oh, down 2-0. Well, they did win both games on the road in the last series. Maybe they'll win the first game on the road. Nope. So I picked the Wolves every game, even though I think Dallas is going to win.
Yeah, that's my thought process exactly. But we continue to get fooled by Karl Anthony Towns.
Oh God,
dude. Oh my.
Wild, you can have this one. Pull up the stats. Pull up the stats.
I've got the numbers here because he has just been so brutally bad in this series. Like he's been on and off really in the playoffs. Like it feels like this whole playoff run, he's either had really good impactful games or he's done nothing. That's kind of what the playoffs have felt like for him. And in this series particularly, it's been bad so far through 3 games. He's averaging 15 points on 18 shots per game, shooting 28% from the field and 13% from 3. About as well, no, literally as bad as any big man has shot through a 3-game stretch in the postseason since the 60s. Unbelievable.
It's just bad. I know even after, I think it was after the last game, not even game 3. I think it was after game 2, right before game 3, where Cat said, "Well, yeah, if they want to bench me, I fully support it because Nas has been on fire." They didn't, and Cat is still just as terrible.
The only thing that could have gone worse for Cat is if he got switched on to Luka at the end of game 2.
Or in game 3.
Yeah, or game 3.
That's another thing. We got to talk about Rudy, defensive player of the year.
But yeah.
Dude.
Rudy.
Look, I think that these playoffs, Rudy Gobert has been, very good for the most part. I'd say he's been good in really every game. There hasn't really been many, bad games from him until, once again, you get to this series.
Until this series.
Where he is just getting cooked in isolation on whatever guard they decide to go at Rudy. Like, whether it's Luka, whether it's Kyrie, whether it's even Jaden Hardy. I don't know if you guys saw this. It was in the second quarter. Jaden Hardy was in. He was driving. He pulled it out. He had Rudy on a switch. Hardy was gonna throw it to Luka, but Luka was just like, no, go to work. Go to work on Rudy.
Luka's like, you know who you got on you? Like, cook him.
It's crazy, man. And that's really been the difference in the series. It's been, well, the 2 big differences. It's been the duo play, which is something that we talked about at the beginning of the series, where Luka and Kyrie, there's been talk by Stan Van Gundy on the broadcast about how they could be the best backcourt in NBA history. I want to talk about that later because I think that's an interesting conversation. But those 2 compared to Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards, it's been completely obliterated by the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah. Kyrie and Luka each had 33 again in game 3. Anthony Edwards, like we talked about, got to the paint more, took more shots, but disappeared down the stretch. Didn't have a huge impact in the fourth quarter. I mean, Luka and Kyrie outscored the entire Timberwolves team by a whole point in the fourth quarter of this one. And I really felt like the game turned. There was a point, it was 92-89, or 92 all, one of the 2.
Yeah.
It was about 10 minutes to go in the fourth, and Minnesota got to the basket. They kicked out to the top for Jaden McDaniels, rotating left to the top of the key to shoot a three. He missed it. It was wide open. It was a good look. Kyrie gets the long rebound. Here come the Mavericks in transition. It's a quick three-pointer up, and Dallas takes a three-point leader. They tied one of the two, and from that point on, I was just like, okay, well, I think Dallas has probably got this because they have Luke and Kyrie, and the two best players in the series are wearing Dallas Mavericks uniforms.
Yeah, what you were saying, like not even it was just more of like the nail in the coffin was those Gafford plays where he had that chase down block, and then on the one end just the alley-oop. That place exploded. You could hear it. You could hear that crap in Houston. Like that. Like
shout out
those
to
Rockets
Jackson.
fans are like screaming. They could just hear it rocking all the way in Dallas. But oh my gosh, that was the nail in the coffin. But Miles, you were hitting on it. Like for me, the two big X factors are both duos. Obviously, you got the duo of Kyrie and Luka, who have just been dominating, especially in the clutch.
But you think Gafford and Lively are the other
duo? The other duo
Huh.
is not necessarily Gafford and Lively, but the absence of what you think, what we were talking in the pre-pod lobby, you should have the clear advantage. You have Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year 4 times, and Karl-Anthony Towns, one of the most talented offensive weapons in the game, and you're getting bodied by Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington and Derek Lively. Like, those three big men are just dominating you. And I'm not putting Naz Reid in that if you want to put the trios against the trios, because Naz Reid has been fantastic. He's the only one that's been really good out of those big men.
Yeah, I mean, it's been unbelievable. And you mentioned Derek Lively. First of all, hope he feels better. He took a tough hit in the first half of Game 3. He's already been listed out as out for Game 4, so he will miss. They said neck sprain.
I think a bad knee to the back of the head.
That looked like a concussion. Looked like a concussion.
He needed help off the court. He could not move. Right.
Definitely definitely scary after all that happened. But yeah, I mean, looking at these numbers, it has been like the Minnesota role players have been pretty solid. Like you said, like Naz Reid is their second leading scorer at 17 points per game off the bench. He cannot miss a three unless it's to win the game in Game 2.
Dude, I was laughing so hard. Man shot 7 from 8 from the three the entire game. Could not miss. You had enough space. Game-winning shot, Brick.
Okay, I thought that was going into.
He was the only thing keeping that heartbeat going the entire game.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel bad because that's what he's going to look towards. But he's the only one that's been he's been one of the only bright spots on that team.
Yeah, so Naz Reid has been very good. Jaden McDaniels, again, lights out from the corner. It's unbelievable what this guy's doing.
4-3.
Mike Conley, I think, has been pretty solid offensively, knocking down threes. They're getting production from Kyle Anderson in every game on the offensive end.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, Karl-Anthony Towns, we mentioned his struggles, and Anthony Edwards, he had a much better game in Game 3, including that ridiculous poster dunk. That was incredible. That's where I think the game could have turned for Minnesota. They were going on a nice run. Dallas was up double digits in this game. Minnesota came back, and it really was, ignited by that Edwards dunk in the third quarter. And then even with 5 minutes to go, Minnesota led by 2 points. With 5 minutes to go, and from then on, Dallas outscored them 14-3. And Minnesota's only made field goal was that gimme Anthony Edwards layup at the end of the game. So they basically shut out the Minnesota Timberwolves, while Dallas did not miss a shot to end the game in the final 5 minutes.
Yeah, the biggest thing in the series to watch for, I think, and it's been highlighted especially down the stretch, like in the moments that we're talking about, just in the clutch time, is the Mavericks' ability to force Minnesota to rotate and get in rotations, and then you have to cover a lot of ground defensively, or you're left with a matchup like Rudy Gobert and Luka out front. And once Minnesota's getting in rotations, and they're consistently doing that over the course of 4 quarters, like, you just don't have the energy to hit that Jaden McDaniels 3-pointer at the top. That gives you the 6-point stretch instead of being a 6-point. Like, you missed that three, and Kyrie goes to get one. That's a 6-point swing because you missed one and they got one. And the reason, like, it all just compounds on itself. It's a long time to be out there. Those guys are out there for like 60 minutes of actual time. Like, while the clock is, like, it's a long game. And when you're forced to be in rotations and it's just constant, Luka's gonna come at me and attack, and oh my God, PJ Washington's in the corner, he's gonna knock down the three, and here comes Kyrie down the court the next possession. Oh my God, Ant took a bad shot, can't get it going.
Yeah. It just seems like Dallas knows what to do offensively, and even against the best defense in the NBA in the regular season, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, well, I mean, I talked about this in the pre-pod lobby about how Minnesota threw so many different defensive coverages on Luka. I saw something on Twitter that it was 8 different coverages that Luka just he just exposed. Like, with either Luka or Kyrie, it's just so difficult to figure out what to do, because if you try to blitz them, that's probably the best thing you can do. You can throw it to Gafford or Lively and force them to make a play. Lively did a great job of it. It's a little more difficult with Gafford in there because he's not as good of a playmaker. But then if you just go one-on-one, Kyrie and Luka can get whatever shot they want. If you do a pick and roll, you're in the drop. That's an open pull-up shot for one of them. If you come up, it's an alley-oop. And then there's the pass to the corner as well, where Washington and Derek Jones are just knocking down threes. Like, there's just the Dallas guards just know exactly what to do on whatever the Wolves are throwing at them.
Yeah, Luka and Kyrie are creating advantages for their role guys, and Anthony Edwards and Cat haven't been able to do that.
It cannot be overstated how good Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving have been, especially in like the fourth quarter. Kyrie, when he was in Cleveland, we called him Mr. Fourth Quarter. We knew he was clutching the playoffs for us when we won the championship.
Luka called him that too.
Shot. Like, Luka has been there, done that. He's knocked out teams in the playoffs before in the clutch, like with draining the three over the Clippers. I remember, like, he's been there, done that too. And you
Kyrie,
put both of those guys on this kind of team, and the role players of the Mavs are stepping up. I'm sorry. And and you have Kyrie locking up, Luka Doncic rotating and getting it in contesting shots. Like, they're actually trying on defense too. You got 2 unbelievable, unstoppable offensive weapons now trying on defense. This Mavs team is just clicking on all cylinders, and it really starts with those 2.
Yeah, Luka had 5 steals in this game, which was more than the entire Timberwolves team in Game 3.
Luka Doncic, Defensive Player of the Year.
He said
Nick
second
would lose
team all
his head. Nick's getting a headache just thinking about it.
No, he said second team all defense.
Second team all defense.
Kyrie, going back to the fourth quarter stuff, the most of any player in the conference finals. Obviously, there's only been 7 games, but he's got 31 points in 3 fourth quarter games, which is pretty outstanding.
Gosh.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Dude, I wonder what he's shooting too, because it feels like every shot he throws up is money in the bank. Besides, I know Game 1 he struggled a bit in the second half. I know that was the game where he went crazy in the first half, but he's
Luka, and I quote, unbelievable. That's why some people call him Mr. Fourth Quarter, right? Just amazing. Yep. He's born for these situations. He's born for the clutch situations, so we just get him the ball.
Exactly. He knows. That's like one of the most talented players in the world telling that about somebody else.
Yeah,
Stan
man.
Van Gundy, right?
Luka and Kyrie are the 2 leading fourth quarter scorers in the conference finals. They're combining for 19 points per quarter, and Kyrie is shooting 50% from the field, 71% from 3. Dang. Luka 64% from the field, 67% from 3. It's just unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. And with Kyrie Irving, it's great to see him playing like this on this sort of stage, because he was one of my first favorite players, with him being in Cleveland. I'm sure most Cavs fans could speak for that.
Definitely my favorite Cav when he was on the team.
Even
though we have LeBron.
I mean,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
he was up there for me. I mean,
yeah.
obviously my second favorite after LeBron, but just the fact he gave us a ring was great.
True.
And of course, unfortunately, the divorce between him and the Cavs was difficult for fans and everyone to kind of endure. And then it felt like through his Boston and Brooklyn, years, he was kind of trying to figure out his right niche as a player, trying to, become a leader in Boston. Not really working out so well. Of course, a couple tough COVID years with the Brooklyn Nets, but this trade to Dallas has he looks just like he was when he was with Cleveland, if not better. And because he knows exactly the role that he has to play. And just an experienced guy at this point, now 32 years of age, and he's just been unbelievable. And it's great to see him playing like this, coming from Cavs fans.
Yeah, he was my favorite when he was on the team, and him playing like this again, it really is truly wonderful to see. Like when I went to that Cavs Mavs game in what was that, late February, when Strus hit that
Yeah.
game winner. Kyrie, we had a little tribute thing up there for him. The entire arena gave him a standing ovation and were clapping for him. That's what he deserves, at least in Cleveland. Boston, Brooklyn, yeah, you probably should hate his guts. I don't blame you for that because you're part of that situation. But us in Cleveland, it is very, very nice to see.
So is Stan right? Are they obviously the debate is just between Clay, Steph, and Luka, Kyrie?
Do you okay? Is that the debate? Do we think? As far as like, I guess my thing is, I think that Luca and Kyrie, they definitely could. They could definitely be the greatest backcourt that we see, but it's definitely going to have to be for longer. I mean, you think with Steph and Clay, they've been the backcourt for the Warriors for 13 years, a bunch of championships. I think that is a big part of it.
If they win the championship this year and they do it, I probably put them on the same level as Steph and Clay, even though they've only won one and Steph and Clay have won multiple. If they win another one, I'll put them way ahead because they really are. If you want to say greatest backcourt ever, yeah, that's more opinion based. But if you want to talk about like most
Talent.
talented backcourt ever, I'm sorry, there is no debate there. That is 100% Kyrie and Luca.
I think that's pretty well said.
That yeah, no
Uh,
question about it. Other like backcourts that were just not together for real long. I mean, of course you've got Harden and Westbrook when they spent a year in Houston together, and then of course their OKC days. But
Yeah.
they were both really good that one year in Houston, the final year of the Rockets when they were good.
One of my favorite backcourt duos is Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars back in those
Yeah.
bad boy Pistons. They won 2 chips back to back.
Kobe never had a good enough point guard, man. I mean, he
What?
could have had CP3 and Kobe.
Oh, what? Derek Fisher doesn't do it for you?
Fisher and
You think about the what if backcourts as well, like Gary Payton and Kobe, um, the Steve Nash and Kobe when that crazy team when they had Dwight.
Steve Nash, Kobe, and Dwight. What a time.
Of course Kyrie and Harden, which that if
Yeah.
we have like Harden in his prime, that's very similar to the Kyrie and Luca that we have right now. Because I think that
Oh
Luca
yeah.
and Harden are very, very similar players. I think Harden's a better 3-point shooter. Um, But I'm looking at this article of top 10 greatest backcourt duos of all time.
John Wall and Bradley Beal got to be on that list.
Oh,
That was
dude,
fun.
that was a fun backcourt, man. That was a fun backcourt. But this article from Sports Skita from back in 2021,
Oh
um,
wow.
looks like a pretty good list though. Number 10, Mark Jackson and Reggie Miller. They're two Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Mo Cheeks, Andrew Toney from the 76ers. Never heard of Andrew Toney. I'm gonna have to do some. I'm gonna
I
have to
know
do some
Mo
research
Cheeks.
on.
That's a Hall of Famer.
You've got Clyde Frazier and Earl the Pearl Monroe with the Knicks. Rondo Ray Allen. That's a
Ooh,
two
underrated.
two specialist all stars. You got a playmaker and one of
Yeah,
the
someone
greatest
who
shooters of all
doesn't
time.
score and the one who doesn't go inside the 3-point line.
The two
Yeah,
guys
one who can't
responsible
shoot.
for the only Boston Celtics NBA ring since 1987.
Yeah, there it is.
Michael Jordan, Ron Harper.
Hey, shout out Ron Harper.
Yeah, let's just forget about the Michael Jordan.
Who?
Yeah, Michael Jordan, who?
Tony Parker and Manu, Isaiah Thomas, Joe
Ooh.
Dumars, who you talked about.
But Manu didn't really start. He was the sixth man.
See, man, these are the guys that we're putting Luke and Kyrie in the conversation with, so it's not hard to see why.
You can see why it's up there.
Yeah, like we were talking about the Celtics, Bob Cousy, Sam Jones.
You got Clyde and Porter on there?
Oh no, that isn't on here, but that is definitely
Porter's
one.
a good one in Portland.
Magic Johnson, Byron Scott.
Okay.
For the Lakers, and the number one is Curry and Clay.
Curry and Clay.
And I think that's definitely Damon CJ was a fun one. I think that Curry and Clay, it's definitely because of the rings. Well, and these are arguably the two greatest shooters in NBA history, both in the same backcourt.
Yeah, I remember this article was written in 21, not this past season, so they didn't know about Clay's downfall.
Even then, I think that's still oh yeah. I'm actually so going back here because I think that we'll talk more about the Dallas Mavericks if they, of course, go on to
let's go Dallas, woo,
win this series. But looking back over the last season, after they made their conference finals appearance in 2022, they lose Jalen Brunson for nothing. And the Mavericks, they weren't able to get things going the next season. And there were a lot of people talking about like, oh boy, is Luka gonna request out of Dallas? The Mavericks are gonna need to do something quick to, make Luka happy, get him in a situation to where he can compete again. And following that, losing Brunson, they have acquired Kyrie Irving, Daniel Gafford, and PJ Washington in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Seth Curry, Rashawn Holmes, Grant Williams, 2 firsts and 2 seconds. That is a heck of a job by the Dallas front office to get.
And they also drafted a guy named Derek Lively.
Yeah, and drafting Derek Lively. Yeah, for sure. That's definitely part of it too. Like, what a year that it's been for the Mavericks front office to make up for losing, Jalen Brunson.
Dude, it shows that. I heard a great quote today. Oh, it was on the Hoop Collective, and they were talking about this. Like a well-executed plan, a plan today that's executed like violently, like well, whether or not like it's sound, is better than a perfect plan a week from today. Like you act violently on whatever plan you have right now and just do it, then it has a good chance of working out for you. So we see that with Dallas. Obviously, they're a game away from being in the finals. Indiana brought in a former champ and all-star and dealt a guy who had 0 playoff experience to the 76ers, Buddy Hield. They made a couple big moves mid-season, so they were also just 4 wins away from being in the finals. So it just goes to show that these teams are making moves and it's paying off. Hint, hint, Cavs front office.
Cavs, trade Donovan Mitchell, so Nick was right about Donovan not being a Cav next year.
Oh my goodness gracious. That's an interesting point though. Like when you look at the course of NBA history, like deals that are made midway through the season or at the trade deadline, they're not too like
good.
Yeah, like the big names that get moved at the deadline, they usually don't lead to a bunch of playoff success. Like you get role players, of course, like the Channing Frys with the Cavs. Trying to think.
Smith and Shumpert from the Cavs and Mozgov. We all made those midway.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of more like when you look at NBA champions or teams that make the finals, like there really aren't a whole lot of moves that get made midway through the season. Like Derek White was a mid-season acquisition when the Celtics last made the finals. Miami got Kevin Love at the middle of last year. But there really isn't a whole lot like compared to this season where you mentioned Siakam, all the moves that the Mavericks have made. The Knicks getting OG midway through the season, even though that their season ended in the second round. Maybe mid-season deals are they're starting to get back into the swing of things as far as being impactful moves for teams going deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, not necessarily the biggest names on the move in the midseason, but definitely impactful.
I mean, that's what we were talking about at the deadline. Was like, well, we don't really expect a whole lot to shift around this year. Turns out everybody was wrong.
Yeah, like the biggest moves at the deadline. Well, the marquee one was Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks to the
Right.
Knicks.
Yeah, that was the big one.
That was literally the day of. That was the big one. That's crazy.
I know.
And then the two Mavs deals were like the next big ones, and then Gordon Hayward to the Thunder. But like all the deals were, well, it was these Maverick deals, and then the moves made at middle of the season from the Knicks and the Pacers. So yeah, man, lots of credit to the Dallas Mavericks here. Of course, they still have a lot of work to do. I think that Game 4 is going to be huge. Obviously, it's for the Timberwolves season, but I think the Mavericks, they have to try to close it out in 4 games because if the Timberwolves, they win Game 4, Game 5 is back home. We could easily be talking about in the next episode, this going to Game 6. Like we saw just last year, both conference finals were 3-0. But Celtics Heat, the Celtics, they came all the way back, forced Game 7. I know that was some historic stuff there, but I could totally see a world where the Timberwolves, win, the next couple games here and really get back into this.
And it's very hard to look ahead for the Mavericks. But if you start losing a game and then another game and you're going to Game 6 or Game 7 and you're like, oh man, it's like we just need to win this last game. But Boston's already had like half a week of rest and you're not even done with your series. That's something I agree with you. They just got to close this out because they need as much rest as the Celtics do. They need Luka to feel better because as great as he has been in pain for like the last 3 rounds.
Derek Lively as well.
Oh yeah, we talked about
we even got the notification today that Maxi Kleber, who was ruled out of the the rest of the playoffs after the tough hit he had in a game against the Clippers in the first round, got a notification that he could be playing in Game 4 of this series. He's questionable for Game 4, so most likely he will return by the end of the playoffs.
Not a huge name, but that's a good stretch 4 right there.
Especially if Lively's out too. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Just gonna say that if Dallas does close it out in the next game, it will be one of the most competitive sweeps probably I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Both of these series probably. Well, no, definitely Timberwolves Mavericks though, if that's a close one. Like I was saying in the pre-pod lobby, that this reminded me so much of the 2019 Western Conference Finals between the Warriors and the Portland Trail Blazers, where in games 2, 3, and 4, the Blazers had a double-digit lead, and lost all 3 games.
Well, here, dude, the Mavericks have come back in their last 4 games in the fourth quarter, going back to the last Game 6 closeout.
Yeah, I thought that Game 2, the Timberwolves were going to win too. Like we weren't even on after Game 2, where the Timberwolves were up double digits in the first half. It looked like they were going to pull out with it, but Mavericks, they had a big third quarter, and then obviously the fourth quarter was huge for them as well here. What do you guys think is going to happen in Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals happening tonight as we release this? Is this ending in a sweep, or are we going to go back to Minnesota?
Like Joey said, we both took the Mavericks. I took them in 6. I didn't even take the Mavericks getting out of the first round. I'm being honest. I took the Clippers in 7. But I'm definitely going to, I've taken the Wolves in every game this series because I just don't. I'm like, well, Joey, you rationalized the point very well earlier.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what it is. I'm like, I picked the Mavericks to win, but every game I think the Wolves are actually going to win, and they just don't do it. So I want the Mavs to win the series, but I'm going to pick the Wolves to win this game because I'm sorry, they have to win one, right? They have to win one of these close games.
It'd be such a disappointment if you go from defeating the defending NBA champion Denver Nuggets to getting a series where on paper, they had a lot of advantages coming in with the bigs. Their defense,
just haven't shown up really.
Just has not shown up at all.
I know he's not here, but Goglin would be an absolute shambles if they get swept. I would feel I would feel for his well-being.
It's actually the real reason he's not here tonight is because they're down 3-0.
Oh, right. I think most basketball fans would be in shambles besides the Maverick fans and Celtics fans because we won't have basketball for 7 full days.
Oh my gosh.
Like you look, so tonight is May the 28th, Tuesday, game 4. If Dallas wins, we won't have another game till game 1 of the finals on Thursday, June 6th. So
Wednesday +7. That's 8 days.
8 days of nothing. 8 days of, and what we have, let's see, one. Oh, we'll have 2 shows to cover finals previews.
Watch some WNBA stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have a WNBA segment. Definitely could.
We definitely could.
Oh man. Well, you guys got anything else before we get out of here?
I do. For all the baseball fans, baseball is back. We can all rejoice and be glad. Angel Hernandez has retired.
Hey, worst umpire of all time.
I saw that earlier, and I'm like, oh, I gotta mention on the pod. I'm like, Nick would be so happy.
Oh man, oh man. Well, let us know in the comments what you think about both of these conference finals, the Celtics getting back to the NBA finals. This impressive, surprising Mavericks start to the conference finals. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe for some more NBA playoff content. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.